Alright, so picture this. This woman right here? Yeah, the one with the glasses and the tight bun. She's a bank teller. And not just any teller. She's the very definition of sensible. Her glasses, plain black wire frames. Her hair, neatly tied back in a bun. No highlights, no drama. Even her uniform, gray and perfectly buttoned up. Everything about her just screams, I follow the rules. Now you'd think a woman like that would speak clearly, right? Wrong, because what she just said to our main character Sukiya made zero sense. The teller leans forward and goes,
Miss Chancing, do you want the $30 million deposited in your savings account, or would you prefer to open a US dollar account?
Wait, what? $30 million? Now hold up, Sukiya's brain was glitching. She looked around the banking hall like, did anyone else just hear that? But nope, she was safe. She had planned this. She didn't come to her usual branch. The staff there knew her too well. Instead, she came to this one, where she could blend in. She was standing in a special queue, the one for platinum card holders. Yeah, she's that level now. Behind her, only 2 people. Far enough not to hear anything. Meanwhile, in the normal people line, 22 folks packed in between fancy velvet ropes that honestly look like tired snakes hanging from shiny silver posts. Up front in that line, there was a man in a green shirt, black trousers, and shiny brown shoes, toes just brushing against the red tape on the spotless marble floor. Then, bing! An orange arrow lit up on the bank's digital strip, and the guy stepped up to the counter. Boom! 21 people left, 9 being served, 4 in the business line, 3 in Sukiya's line. That's 37 customers total. And no, she didn't count manually. Sukiya just does that. She's the kind of woman who counts everything without even trying. That's why what this teller said was seriously messing with her head. Like, was this some weird prank? She looked at the teller. The woman was staring right back at her, waiting, not smiling, not smirking, just serious. So maybe not a joke? Still, if this turned out to be some kind of funny business, Sukiya was absolutely ready to go full Karen and write a complaint to the manager. But then again, maybe she should have been talking to the manager from the start. See, ever since she got promoted to corporate secretary, and her salary jumped, like 10 times higher, she made a rule, no dealing with bank managers. Even though she was now part of the country's top 1%, she kept things low-key. Her official salary? $50,000 a month. It hit her savings account like clockwork on the 28th. But that wasn't even the real money. Randall, the financial genius she listened to, told her to keep things smart. So she did. That account? Just for the basics. Her apartment mortgage, utility bills, that's it. The company paid for everything else. Fuel? Covered. Audi Q7 servicing? Covered. Food? She ate out. Every day. Even breakfast. Usually across the street at the hotel. Hair? Shoes? Covered with the company credit card. As a result, that savings account? It was sitting pretty with over $7 million. Not bad for a girl who once worked as a store clerk at 18 when she first opened that very same account. Now here's the real reason she avoided managers. They know too much. A teller? She might raise an eyebrow. She might envy Sukiya a little. But a manager? A manager might start doing the math. Wait, how did this $50,000 a month salary turn into $7 million in 6 years? Yeah, no thank you. But now? Sukiya was standing in front of this very normal-looking teller, and her stomach started doing a weird little dance. She tried to respond. At first she said, "What you mean?" Then stopped herself, breathed in, collected her cool, and then carefully said,
I don't understand what you mean. That check is for $5 million.
She calmly looks at Sukiya, as if she's just talking about buying groceries, and goes,
Yes, Miss Chancing. It's for $5 million US. If you're depositing the check in your savings account, I just have to contact our Treasury Department to get exchange rate approval. But it should be about 30,242,000 Trinidad and Tobago dollars.
Then, this part, wild. She casually waves the check around, like just gestures with it. Sukiya almost flinched. That's $5 million she's tossing around like a flyer. The teller continued,
Or would you like to open a US dollar account?
Now, while Miston, bank teller, starts listing all the amazing benefits of having a US dollar account, Sukiya's brain checks out. She's not listening, because all she's thinking is, did I really just throw a $5 million check into the trash? Yeah, she did. And for Sukiya, this was the kind of mistake she doesn't make. Not ever. 16 years ago, back when she was a fresh 25-year-old lawyer straight out of law school, even then, she wouldn't have made this mistake. 7 years ago, when she earned her accounting degree, definitely not. Not even when her dad died at Fernando General Hospital, the one with only 2 dialysis machines. He never knew she was already making serious money. He never knew she could have paid for better treatment, even flown him to Pakistan for a kidney transplant. And now? Now she just casually misread a check and nearly threw $5 million away? Yeah, unacceptable. Back then, she was the one trusted to move huge amounts of money through the company when the oil and gas boom hit. She was the one steering the ship when the cash started flooding in. So this wasn't just an oopsie. This was personal. She snapped out of it and told the teller,
Give me the check.
The teller blinked, just slightly. Her eyes widened. Maybe Sukiya's tone was too sharp. So Sukiya quickly added, Please. Smooth recovery. The teller slid the check across the counter. Sukiya picked it up. The rough edge of the paper felt familiar against her fingers. She looked at it closely this time. There it was, in bold black ink, $5 million US made out to her, signed by Randall A. Credo, big dramatic R, loopy C, and her own signature right beside his neat, clean, professional. She hadn't even read it when she signed it. It was part of a wild day last week. She'd signed off on 47 different documents. Everything had felt rushed. But still, no excuse. She made a mistake. And she doesn't make mistakes. Now the line behind her, just one person. The regular line, 33 people. The commercial queue, 6 more. That's 40 customers, not including her. She glanced around. No one looked quite as sharp as her, obviously. A few women had been eyeing her Burberry skirt, her Dolce blouse, her Manolo Blahnik heels. She had planned to go straight back to the office after this, but now she felt a little nervous. It was 12 minutes to noon. In a few minutes, that line would stretch from the counter to the front door. The bank would get packed. She needed to be out before that happened. But here's the issue. She couldn't just drop $5 million, or more specifically, 30,242,000 TTD, into her local account. And not just because all her US checks were supposed to go to her Cayman Islands account. That's her investment money, the account she used to pay for her London flat mortgage. See, Randall, the same Randall who signed the check, he's old school. The kind of guy who still prefers paper over electronics. Why? Because he's watched too many crime movies where hackers wipe out offshore accounts from a beach somewhere. So no wire transfers for him. Just checks. Physical, old-fashioned ink-on-paper checks. But here's the twist. Sukiya didn't know why Randall had given her this one until she found out she couldn't deposit it. Now she started to wonder, would the teller get suspicious if she just took the check back? So she studied the woman again. Glasses, cheap frames, wedding ring, small diamond, regular cut, skin, smooth, face, plain. Not unattractive, just ordinary. The other 7 checks Sukiya had brought in were in a small stack on the counter. If it were her behind the counter, she would have lined them up neatly so she could see all the details at once. But this woman, she didn't seem to know the deeper layers of how money, real money, moved. And that, for now, worked in Sukiya's favor. So now Sukiya is standing there, looking at the teller like, okay, I need to play this smart. She leans in just a little and says,
You could tell me? Could you tell me the amounts of those checks?
And listen. Her brain already knew the numbers. Sukiya was sharp like that. She ran through them instantly. 67,000 in September, 129,000 in November, 82,000 in December, 240,000 in January, 400,000 in April, 322,000 in May, 600,000 in August. She'd gotten the $5 million one just last Tuesday, and she had assumed, naturally, it was her fee for helping Randall close that methanol plant deal. So she thought, you know what? I better take all these dusty old checks and dump them in the bank before they start looking like actual money. Now the teller, Still calm, still sensible, picks up the 7 checks and flips through them. One by one, top to bottom, she starts reading out the dates and totals out loud. Sukiya, she's standing there using those moments to double-check herself. Had she messed anything else up? But no. Every number matched. The total, $1,840,000. Which, okay, in Sukiya's world, that wasn't a huge deal. Just around $300,000 US, or 215 euros, or 180,000 pounds. Still, she knew better. She shouldn't have let that much just sit in a drawer. But the truth? She hated going to the bank, standing in lines, depositing little bits of paper when she was used to moving millions online with a single click. Anyway, once the teller was done, Sukiya nodded and said,
Okay, put those in my account. I will open a US savings account as you advised, but I don't have time now. I could come back later?
The teller, still professional, replies,
Of course, Miss Chancing. We're closing at 2 today, though.
and the teller, super prompt,
I'll come back tomorrow to see about that then. What time you open? Do you open?
At 8, and you'll need to provide the source of funds, of course.
Sukiya smiled a little, not on the outside but deep inside, because that last line, it confirmed everything. This teller had no clue how really wealthy people did business.
Of course.
Sukiya replied, hiding the small, satisfied grin trying to escape her lips. She waited quietly as the teller signed off on all 7 checks. Tap, tap, tap on the keyboard. The machine hummed and spat out a deposit slip, which the teller handed over.
I've confirmed the company account and cleared your checks so you have access to the funds.
The teller said. Sukiya answered politely.
Thank you for your help.
And with that, she turned and walked out of the bank. As she left, she did what she always did, counted. 55 customers were now inside. She walked to the car park feeling satisfied. That whole situation could have been messy, but she'd handled it like a pro. The teller, she never saw it coming. Sukiya had distracted her, taken control of the conversation, made her feel like she'd done something important. Which, to be fair, she kind of had. If Sukiya had one complaint, it was that she sometimes let her old accent slip in. That little countryside rhythm from her childhood. But even then, she'd caught herself in time. No way was she letting anyone figure out where she came from. Not in this bank. And let's be honest, the teller, not even in her league. If Sukiya had opened that US dollar account for $5 million, maybe the teller would have gotten something out of it. A little thank you from the bank. Like what? An extra $2,000 a month? A $5,000 year-end bonus? Sukiya chuckled to herself as she hit the unlock button on her key fob. She climbed into her Audi SUV. That sleek, expensive hum of power, and as she pressed the ignition and fastened her seatbelt, one final thought crossed her mind. 33% of the people still standing in that regular bank line? Yeah. They were the ones who paid for this car. So, just when Sukiya thought she had everything sorted, paperwork done, checks cleared, teller handled, she remembered one tiny thing. That $5 million US dollars sitting quietly in her handbag. Yeah, that one? Definitely not paid for by the 33% of locals who basically funded her Audi. That money most likely came from the Chinese. But why? Even Sukiya didn't know. She sank back into her buttery leather seat, let the air conditioning cool her down from the blazing tropical heat outside, and pulled out of the busy car park. First stop? Her apartment. Not the office. Not yet. She needed to check some private records before she faced Randall. And also, she wanted to change clothes. Because today she dressed for style. She had meetings lined up, and she was giving luxury professional realness. But Randall, he was a different game. When she faced him, she wanted something more formal, more executive power play. Sukiya had learned early, as a woman, especially around powerful men like Randall, whom she had known and whose secrets she knew for years, appearances mattered. So, she took the road out of the city. Her apartment? In one of those high-end suburbs where the top 1 cent lived. On a good day, it was a 10-minute drive. On a bad day, 40 minutes. An hour if traffic was angry. And Randall? Oh, if he found out she'd made a mistake that might expose him to legal trouble? Or worse, public embarrassment? Whoa! Even the toughest CEOs trembled when Randall was mad. But honestly, public scandal was unlikely. Politicians loved the company. They needed its money for campaigns, pet projects, and yeah, for personal bank accounts. Plus, the company owned shares in pretty much every major media house on the island, so even if a journalist smelled something fishy, the editors wouldn't touch the story. Why? Advertising revenue, board pressure, job security. No one was risking that. Still, maybe Randall had made a mistake by handing her that check. Had he looked distracted that morning? She didn't think so. He'd been his usual laser-focused self. They had gone through every deal point fast and clean. The only real hiccup? His pen ran out of ink. And yep, he'd borrowed her 18-karat gold Tibaldi rollerball. Which, by the way, he never gave back. She only just remembered that now. That's when her brain clicked, like 2 + 2 = 4. And listen, even for her, $5 million was serious money. That could renovate her London flat, or let her buy the unit next to her Miami condo and turn it into a sleek 3-bedroom. Or, if she really wanted to flex, she could just drop 14 million teat on a 6-bedroom mansion with a pool and a gazebo. The fantasy was strong, but when the light turned green and she merged into traffic on the 3-lane highway, Sukiya shook her head. No, she wouldn't deposit it without checking with Randall first. Her properties, London, Miami, were already good investments, and her mother's modest flat would come to her eventually. Besides, even Randall, as rich as he was, didn't just throw around checks like that, and Sukiya, as his corporate secretary and private accountant, would have known if this kind of payment was scheduled. Randall didn't have her gift for cold calculations, but the man had instincts. He could glance at an income statement or a balance sheet and just feel if something was off, if the numbers were hiding something or where the problem might be. Sukiya respected that. Though she had turned her own mathematical gift into a law career, because lawyers made more money, and also because her dad, an accounts clerk, had made her hate that world. Especially the night she got the national scholarship at 17, the one that sent her to university. He celebrated by getting drunk and beating her mom worse than usual. Yeah, no, she wasn't going to be like him. Randall, on the other hand, came from a different world, son of a powerful businessman, sharp in both law and numbers. Sukiya drafted contracts, checked titles, wrote legal opinions. She knew the rules. But Randall? He read the same contracts and spotted the loopholes. At first, Sukiya thought she was hired to close those loopholes. Nope. Her biggest checks came from creating them. Now, the sale of the methanol plant to the Chinese, that had been a clean, straightforward deal. She had worked on that contract. And sure, maybe she earned a good payout from it, but not $5 million. Even with the protocol bribe, the Chinese always included, it still didn't add up. So where was that money really from? So, picture this. Sukiya sitting in traffic, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel like a boss who's got zero time for nonsense. It's lunch hour and the roads packed. All the office types who had cars, and more importantly, parking spaces, were crawling out of the city like beetles heading to lunch. And the traffic? Even worse these days. Why? Because the government was on a skyscraper spree. Big glass towers rising up by the harbor, glowing with pastel lights at night like it was always Christmas. All part of the Prime Minister's dream to make the city look like Miami. And of course, Randall, our mysterious money man, had gotten fat contracts from it, because, duh, he funded a big chunk of the campaign. Normally, Sukiya didn't mind the traffic, not when she was cruising in her Audi Q7. It gave her a nice view from up high. It was sleek. It was rare. And best of all, her tinted windows were darker than midnight. Illegal? Technically. But the cops, please. They weren't stopping anyone driving something that cost more than their own entire house. But today, that didn't help. She needed answers. She needed to get home. She needed to face Randall, fully armed with the facts, and dressed the part too. So she reached over, pulled out her iPhone, tapped the screen, and said slowly. Randall's executive assistant picked up. Sukiya told her to squeeze in a 10-minute meeting before 2 p.m. Margaret offered 130. Yes, Sukiya replied. Easy, clean. She figured if this wasn't her fault, if Randall had made the mistake, she might even keep the check. Why not? She did do all the legal work for the methanol plant sale. It was complicated, time-consuming, and Randall had made a fortune. The kind of fortune that made $5 million look like tip money. She clung to that thought the whole drive home. 20 minutes later, traffic thinned out as she reached the suburbs. The moment she stepped out of the car, the heat slapped her. Good old tropical sun, roasting like a grill. But the second she opened the apartment door, cool breeze, courtesy of her top-of-the-line air conditioning. The place was spotless, like no one actually lived there. Her white rugs were glowing. The glass and stone furniture shimmered. The cream leather sofa looked like it had just come off the showroom floor. She kicked off her shoes inside. Inside, 2 filing cabinets, a big desk, an ergonomic chair, stacks of files and binders, and dust, a lot of it. She sat down, opened a drawer, and carefully laid out 10 checks, one by one, then pulled the big one, the $5 million bomb, from her wallet and placed it right in the center like the crown jewel. This wasn't a random stash. These checks were collected over the last 3 months. Altogether, $12 million. Yeah, let that sink in. And honestly, Sukiya blamed Randall for almost messing up this one. He always paid her in US checks for foreign jobs, legal documents, international deals, shady side tasks, and she had to fly to Grand Cayman every 2 months just to deposit them. The TT dollar checks, those were for local side gigs. She started hoarding them too, stacking them like old receipts. Not because she forgot. No, it was vanity. That poor girl from Pino, the one who used to eat half a mango and drink water for lunch, she was now sitting on millions in checks that she hadn't even bothered to deposit. And all of them, US and TT, ended up in the same drawer. That was how she confused this one. But the question still stood. Why would Randall give her $5 million for the methanol sale? Even with the usual protocol bribe, the Chinese included, it didn't make sense. There had to be something more. All right, now things are getting real. Back in her study, the one no maid was allowed to touch, Sukiya sits at her desk and boots up her offline-only desktop computer. No Wi-Fi, no Ethernet, no Bluetooth. Just a clean, quiet digital vault. Because sure, she's not as paranoid as Randall, but she's not stupid either. She types in her password, then opens a folder, then another password. Beep! The screen comes alive, and off she goes. First stop, her accounts for the past year. Then, her spreadsheets. Then, she lines up the checks in front of her like puzzle pieces. She's scanning, comparing, calculating, and what does she find? Everything's perfect. Everything matches. Except that $5 million. Again, she catches herself wondering, should I just shut up and fly to the Caymans next week? She had been thinking about buying a new place. Her current apartment, it had felt luxurious at first, back when she just stepped into power. Now, a little small, a little too safe. But then she stops herself. Focus, Sukiya. She shakes her head, annoyed for getting ahead of herself, and runs the numbers again. Then again, making absolutely sure everything that's supposed to be correct is correct, and everything that's supposed to be incorrect is strategically incorrect. That's her skill. She makes mistakes. Then she leans in over the checks, checking dates, signatures, everything. Every one of them signed by Randall, countersigned by herself. All good. So what now? Only one thing left to do. Take the $5 million check to Randall and get his explanation. Maybe, it's a surprise bonus. Unlikely, sure. Time to dress like a power broker. Sukiya gets up, heads to the master bedroom, peels off her blouse and skirt, drops them on her four-poster bed, then heads straight to the mirror closet. She knew what she was wearing. The royal blue Armani skirt suit. It was sharp, elegant, meant business. She paired it with a pink camisole, closed the closet, and looked at herself in the mirror. Slim body, no gym required. A little belly softness, yes, but hidden well when dressed. She wasn't a fan of her skin, dry with some dark spots, but that's why she never let men see her in bright light. She slipped into the camisole, zipped up the skirt, and buttoned the jacket. Pink lace peeking just slightly. a strategic hint of softness beneath that Armani steel. Would Randall notice? Probably not. But he was still a man. And if this meeting turned into negotiation, she wanted every advantage. Back in the study, she opened a drawer and pulled out a manila envelope. Should she take all the checks, or just the one that threw her whole day off? As she stood over the desk, frowning, something hit her. Her breath caught, like someone else had gasped from inside her own throat. She saw it. Not just a number, not just a name. Something in the checks, some pattern, some hidden shape, popped into focus. She closed her eyes, opened them again. It was still there, clear as day. It wasn't a mistake. No, this was intentional, which meant that Randall A. Credo was either completely insane or even more dangerously smart than she had ever imagined. Her legs nearly gave out. She had to sit down, heart racing, fingers trembling. She touched the checks lightly, like they might burn her. Her mind spun like a hard drive. Option 1, confront Randall. Option 2, run. She could run. She had the money, more than enough. She could vanish easily. But here's the thing. Sukiya had already had more than enough for years. And running meant giving up the game. And this right here was the world's most important game. No. She stood up, hands calm now. She slid every check into the manila envelope and sealed it. She would go to Randall, to their 1:30 meeting, and she only hoped he was just insane. The drive back to the capital, a breeze, 10 minutes. She used every second to plan her arguments, her posture, her eyes, her voice. She parked in her spot at the company tower, glanced at the clock. She stayed in the Q7, waiting, because if she walked in too early and Randall made her wait, she'd look weak. If she walked in too late, he'd be annoyed. And Randall, he hated people who were late. So she sat still, steady, watching the time tick down, because the next move had to be perfect. Okay, buckle up. It's 1:25, and our girl Sukiya is ready for war. She steps out of her Q7, checks her look in the tinted reflection, breathes deep, and enters the towering glass building. She's calm, controlled, but inside that manila envelope, chaos. Up the elevator to the top floor. She glides into Randall's outer office at 1:29, right on schedule. Margaret is at her desk, like a loyal palace gatekeeper. Low heels, long skirt, little girl voice, always composed, always watching. Sukiya raises an eyebrow toward Randall's office door. Margaret chirps. She may sound sweet, but Sukiya knows this woman has more dirt on Randall than even she does. Sukiya numbs the growl from inside. She enters. The office? Huge, elegant. Windows like screens to the city skyline. Randall sits behind a massive oak desk, wearing a tight suit that clings to his bulk like ambition to a politician. He doesn't greet her. Randall never greets. Just a cold question.
What can I do for you, Sukiya?
No time for small talk. That's why they work well together. She pulls the $5 million check from her purse and drops it onto the desk like it's toxic.
I don't know what this is for.
Randall picks it up slowly. Thick fingers, black hairs on his
I
knuckles.
was wondering if you would query this or just deposit it. When I didn't hear from you for 1 week, I assumed you deposited it.
What's it for?
On the books, it's your fee for the methanol deal.
And off the books?
Off the books, it's your fee for keeping your mouth shut about the methanol deal.
Oh, well then, Sukiya crosses her
Why
arms.
do I need to keep my mouth shut, Randall? I drew up a standard contract.
Randall opens a folder, reveals a value valuation
This
report.
contract undervalued the shares by 50%.
I used the share price you told me to use.
Randall points to her signature at the
You've
bottom.
gotten into the habit of signing documents without reading them properly, Sukiya.
And just like that, she sees it all. The scam, the under-the-table deal, the reason the Chinese were so generous. Her voice is tight.
Your signature's there too.
Randall
I didn't write
shrugs.
the contract.
And then Sukiya opens the envelope and lays out all the checks, like dominoes of doom. Randall glances over the paper trail, and then something unexpected happens. He smiles. A real one. No teeth, just satisfaction.
Finally,
Sukiya's heart pounds. Her hands are steady, but her stomach feels like it's wrapped in
Your
ice.
signatures on these checks don't match. Only that one looks like your normal hand.
Randall's
Actually,
grin
it's only
widens.
close to my normal hand. Someone forged the others. Had access to blank checks. Even that one was signed with your pen. And then,
Her Tabaldi
it's quite a nice
rollerball.
pen.
Sukiya licks
What
her
are you up
lips,
to, Randall?
and that's when he goes full
The
drama villain.
universe is collapsing, Sukiya, and its masters cannot hold.
She rolls her eyes. What does that mean? He
It
leans
means
back.
this company will be bankrupt within 3 months.
Boom! The sunlight outside seems to flicker. Sukiya leans in, palms pressed on his desk.
We can't be bankrupt. We're one of the biggest conglomerates in the region.
He laughs, teeth now visible. Sukiya's stomach clenches.
There's going to be a worldwide financial crisis. You've been moving this company's assets around for years. Didn't see it coming.
I did what you told me to do. And why have you forged your own signature?
Protecting myself. The checks, a strategy. The board, the managers, even you, none of the documents point to me.
You're the boss. You'll be held accountable.
I may be held responsible, but there'll be nothing to hold me accountable.
Sukiya's eyes fill with tears. For the first time in her career, she breaks. Just a little. Randall watches, curious.
Relax, maybe you'll have to go to court, but local police, no clue how to make a case like this.
Sukiya wipes her
If
face.
we collapse, that affects everyone with a life insurance policy. That's votes. That means government involvement. Auditors, QCs from London.
There is
Randall
that
nods.
possibility.
Sukiya leans in, desperate now.
I've always been loyal to you.
You were certainly paid enough to be loyal.
She breathes deeply, his eyes flick to her cleavage.
Can't you help me?
Come
Long
here.
pause, then he says. She hesitates, then walks around the desk. Randall turns his leather chair
Kneel,
toward her.
kneel, kneel.
She licks her lips, pulls her hair back, and then, beep, her
Excuse
iPhone.
me?
She says, she checks the screen, taps a few buttons.
Just a moment.
Randall frowns. She raises a finger, then presses play. From her speaker, Randall's
Off the
voice
books,
echoes.
it's your fee for keeping your mouth shut about the methanol deal.
Randall shoots up like he's been electrocuted. Sukiya steps back, phone held
Not
high
only
like
does
a
it
weapon.
record, it also emails.
Randall freezes, rage flickering in his eyes but chained
My
by
pin.
fear. She says, he hands it to her, slow and
Don't
stiff
worry,
like a
Randall.
puppet.
We'll face the coming storm together.
She turns, walks to the giant window, climbs up onto the inside ledge, leans back against the warm glass. The city stretches below, the sea glimmers beyond. Her
Come,
voice,
Randall.
cool and commanding.